When it comes to Frank Matthews' disappearance, you hear a lot of opinions on what may occur. From him taking all of his money and going to a different country, to getting kidnapped by the mob. Some even say he went as far as checking into the witness protection program. As most of us hoped he finished his run with a happy ending, these logical points I'll be sharing tonight makes the chances a little slim. Now, when Frank Matthews started his run, he tried to sit down with the mob and form some type of partnership. But the mob declined. They didn't need him. A lot of people like to make it a race thing, but it really wasn't. The Italians work with many blacks. Now, there are some racist people in this world, don't get me wrong, but shit, here's a picture with Don Carlo Gambino, and Sammy Davis Jr. Businessmen like being around other businessmen. They know how to conduct themselves. They don't like us. They don't like white trash. They just like green. But the main problem people don't like to talk about is that Frank Matthews liked to party. You know, he was sniffing coke. The mob hated drug users so bad that if they found out a member of their family was using, they would just kill him. But with the mob declining respectfully, Frank started going to the Cubans, doing business with them. Great business. He was doing this thing. They had a great situation going on, but he wanted more. He was just too ambitious. He wanted to be number one. He wanted to rule the United States of America. He knew he can get the blacks to get with his program, but he didn't want to be just powerful to blacks. He knew he needed to be connected to those white boys to become mega. So he told himself, if they didn't want to deal with him, he was going to make it so they had no choice. But only if he knew that he was going to start this game, he would be playing by himself. Frank was all about the quality. A lot of people was complaining about the junk they were getting from the Italians. The Italians didn't care about the product as long as it was selling. They were earners and they had buyers. Not only was Frank able to score some pure product from multiple locations overseas, but he was able to bypass traditional distribution channels and landed a direct connection to the suppliers. Now, he's the man at this point, but still didn't get the Italians' attention. And for those that thought the Italians cared, that wasn't their only hustle. You ever heard of the saying, when it gets to the blacks, it's already finished? The Italians were on to better things like construction, concrete, labor unions, controlling the ports. They was like drugs, man. Like, they could have all that. We don't even like the stuff that comes with that. Matter of fact, whoever get caught dealing, I'm killing them on the spot. And that became a new rule. Even though you had some guys still dealing behind closed doors, those were the people that Frank dealt with. He wasn't sitting down with any major bosses. Some bosses would turn the other way while their men would deal, but it was all about earning at the end of the day. But it wasn't about race. It wasn't about hate. They were in different lanes. Frank continued to seek validation. He wanted to be accepted. He wanted to get close because he wanted those connections. Just like I said, he was aiming to be a very powerful man. He purchased his home in Toad Hill, Staten Island. It's pretty much common sense that he knew what he was doing. Why would Frank move into a neighborhood where there's no blacks? To say that he didn't scope out the property before purchasing is just nonsense. He loved the fact that his neighbors would be the upper echelon of La Cosa Nostra. Now, one of the main reasons was to somehow gain some type of relationship with the neighbors. Now, this was kind of a chess move by Frank to show the mob that he's so close that if anything was to happen, they're just a knock at the door. Frank would have parties and meetings at his home, and Paul Castellano would write down license plates, and he would hand them to the FBI. Now, Big Paul's intentions weren't to get anyone arrested. He had agents on the inside that could bring him back names that matched the license plates. A lot of people would simply say that Paul Castellano wrote down those license plates to snitch. But if you're in the game at a high level, you have to have some type of law enforcement in your back pocket. So you're going to use all the tools you have to get the information on individuals. Now, here's where things start to get good. And I'm not here to tarnish the legacy of Frank Matthews at all. But a lot of people were saying he was working with the CIA. And it's not just the idiots in today's time, but guys back then were thinking the same thing. It's like first they was like, why is he so dedicated to get so close to the mob that he went out and purchased a home in Toad Hill? When he was arrested, He told law enforcement that he didn't want to talk to any white detectives, even though he shouldn't be talking at all. But they got back to the Italians that he only wanted to speak to agents that was black. So this looked like he didn't want to talk to any white agents for the fact that he didn't know if they was working for the mob. That raised red flags, a lot of red flags. Not only for the Italians, but guys in his own camp. And if you take a look at this picture, this was during his arrest. If you take a good look at this picture, he appears to be high out of his mind in his mugshot, which isn't a good sign at all. Part of the main reason why the mob got rid of members that were on drugs or drug addicts, because they were prone to telling. The drugs take over that your morals go out the window, that addicts could steal and cross their loved ones without any thought. His bail was set to $5 million. He paid the 1% and got out. But around the same time during his arrest, more than 20 individuals were arrested that was a part of his overseas connection. That was another red flag. When Frank Matthews went to deliver some product, without having any care, he openly hands over narcotics, exposing the transactions to the public eye. Many people think he was giving law enforcement a clear shot of the drug transaction. That was another red flag. So the question is, did the mob get rid of Frank Matthews, or did he take all his money and leave? Well, the Italians couldn't get close to Frank themselves without it being very obvious. You know how the mob get. They use the closest person to you to take you out. The Italians wasn't the only ones concerned about Frank during this time. So in my theory, Frank Matthews was set up by his own people. Yes, African Americans. They sided with the mob to take him out. Yes, Frank Matthews was the man. He got all the money. Shit. He had so much money that he stopped counting it. He was so bored with the game. But the question is, was he the man to the people that had money? Or was he just the man of poor people? I mean, you could be the man of poor people all day, but when it comes to dealing with the higher ups, are you respected? Yes, a lot of people will say that Frank Matthews was the biggest because he had the money. I mean, you could walk around and throw all your weight around all you want, but getting money could be a big reality check when you realize that how good is your money if you can't even open up certain doors? You don't have the keys, you don't have the connections to open up certain doors. You're not even having it your way, but you got a lot of money. You're only the man of poor people, and that's facts. But shout out to all my viewers. Let me know in the comments what y'all think. Let it be known, man. And before y'all leave, hit the like button. And if you're new, subscribe to the channel. If you like the content, don't forget to check out all my playlists. Hit that notification button so you don't miss out on the content. Y'all be safe tonight. I'm out.